I thought that, well, in terms of observational documentary, I'd say that's it. You can leave it there. Just study that. I think, and because I think access is absolutely the point. I think what I find difficult, that taught me a lot actually as a filmmaker. I realised I'm not a filmmaker in some ways. I thought cinematographer was a bit rich or not quite right for the credit at the end. And also I noticed that contrasted me at the digital film lab and the rest of it. There was something going on there for me about, I thought, actually, is it cinematographer, is that the right word? I didn't get that. I came in a bit late and I was gripped, straight in. And I was like, what's going on here? And what struck me is what I find as a filmmaker is that going beyond discomfort. There are many times when, I've been in a situation where, that place where you have to stop, you think you should stop rolling the camera. The real journalist wouldn't stop rolling the camera. The person who feels like they've got some sort of responsibility, discomfort, or interesting or difficult relationship, not even difficult, different relationship with the subject, might want to stop rolling the camera. Because it's ironic, because one of the things if you want to build trust with someone, you want them to know that you are prepared to stop the camera when they say. These guys didn't want to say. So what was interesting, what was it they wanted to purge? What was it they wanted to tell? I was trying to work out who the filmmakers were. Were they either they were from that community, emerging from within that community, or they came with a very specific purpose? And in terms of responsibility, I think as a filmmaker you've got to be really bold. I'd be very uncomfortable. Like, for example, when those guys when they were posing in front of the camera for the 21 key, now if that was me, I'd be like, oh, this is a video camera, you might have to go or I might try to take a picture or something. But observational documentary, just keep rolling. Don't say anything.
It's interesting though, because of course actually the notion of truth, which we kind of keeps being banded around. Well, I mean, as someone who teaches documentary all the time, and every time you go in, we're going to do documentary, what does that mean to you? Oh, it means reality, which doesn't really mean anything as a term. So what you're sort of saying, I think, Rob, is really interesting, is that responsibility comes back at all different stages, and access is the first part, and involvement, and the background of Manenberg is that they were, as far as I understand from the notes, they lived there for 5 years. They're a Danish couple, I don't know if they're a couple, but they're a couple of filmmakers, and they lived there for 5 years and shot for 5 years. But of course, actually, a lot of the selection or the responsibility would have come, which must have been the case with kind of the alphabet, when you actually assessed all of that footage at the end.
Hi, I just wanted to make a very, very quick point about the music, because I thought the music, the little strand of thought-provoking music was really special and opened up a kind of sense of distance even from the observational space of the interior of the home, the family home, but also around that particular block of flats, and the environs. And just every now and then that strain of quite plaintive music was quite special.
I think it got raised in my film as well about the music, and I think it's an interesting thing, because traditionally observational film, there's a lot of observational filmmakers that all have no music at all, as a kind of dogmatic view on these things. But at the same time, it's a film. In a film, these are these elements you can elicit with music, and I think music does have a role in filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think this whole idea of construction and artifice, I think absolutely. I think and music is a really engaging way. And I think that, sometimes you're wondering, is this drama or doc? And I don't think, once again, it comes back to this idea about, I think, what is my truth as a filmmaker? And I think that's why you make films in the first place, I guess, because you believe an area is probably somewhat underrepresented, and you don't trust the new mainstream media to represent your view. So, I mean, because actually Donald Trump's a really nice guy. He's been misrepresented, honestly. Okay, he's not.
And on that note,
he's not the example. I like the stunned silence. That was 11 o'clock this morning. You're too late. Actually, the point, the ghetto that I tour, if you like, is the ghetto I live in, and so I've lived in the community I tend to make films in, and so that's where I tend to work. So actually, that because the movement isn't against trying to construct anything. No. It's about what's being represented by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Likewise, you say about the Zambian elections, or whether it's the Syrian war, or whatever it is. We no longer, in the age of YouTube especially, no longer trust the BBC, CNN, any of them, actually. So it's not so much about trying to be real in pretending we're not filmmaking, but it's saying the truth we're constructing is coming from somewhere else, and that's this reality also needs to be seen.
Because I would agree, I think the music's incredibly effective in the film, and it gives you, I guess, when we're talking about these realms of truth, it gives you a kind of psychological truth in that actually, although we're looking at deep instability, it reminds you there's a calmness and an everydayness and a kind of, it does all these extra things that are almost, I think, almost an antithesis to what we're seeing, but as a reminder that the space is not this constant, although we're seeing a lot of flux, we also know the space continues every day. It carries on every day.